So hi, anyway, Matt Marchand here, anxiety expert. We're talking with Laura today. We did a session a while back, and she's going to just answer some questions about it and what she thought about it, so you guys can, I guess, learn from her experience and what it's like to work with me. Okay, so Laura, let's get started. The first question I want to ask you is, kind of what made you decide to work on this issue with me? You can phrase it any way you want, but what kind of made you decide to do this?
Well, I had a trip coming up. It was I think it was about a month after our session. And I live in Europe, and I was flying back to the United States. So it's a long trip. It's about 24 hours. And I also was going to stay with family in the States while I was there. And I was starting to experience an incredible amount of anxiety around the trip. I was waking up feeling claustrophobic about it. I was feeling claustrophobic about the flight and about staying with my family. And of course, it's very distracting when you're full of that kind of anxiety. It's distracting from my work, and it was distracting from my thinking about it. It was distracting me from my planning of the trip. And I also couldn't figure out why I was feeling it to such a great degree. So that's kind of how I came into wanting to discuss this with you.
Okay. Can you kind of explain to me in detail about what was going on with the claustrophobia and what you thought about it?
Well, I'd had some of this before, a few years before, that was more specific, or I should say, I guess that I didn't have it when I was thinking about something. I would have it when I was in the airplane itself. I would feel claustrophobic. Or in the situation itself, I would feel kind of claustrophobic. But this was happening just in thinking about it. And the feeling was kind of, a little bit like I couldn't breathe. And of course, I'd get really sweaty. And I just had a kind of panic sensation that I was in a very tight space and I had to get out. But it was happening just thinking about the trip, not even being in the situation yet.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's.
So it had happened somewhere, other places before then?
Yeah, but never just thinking about it. It happened in the situations themselves. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how'd you try to deal with it or fix it in the past when that kind of came up?
I'd asked someone to help me with it the very first time it happened, and she taught me some breathing techniques. And they're very good breathing techniques. I appreciated knowing them. And when I was in the situation, they kind of helped calm me down enough that I kind of could become rational again and do something. But so that's mostly what I had tried. And I thought about it and read about it a bit, but mostly I just tried the breathing techniques, and I'd spoken a bit to a therapist about it.
Okay. So you got some results from it, but it wasn't something that eliminated the issue.
No, and that's where it didn't work, is that it never eliminated it at all. It never stopped it from happening. It's just that when it happened, I had a bit of a tool for what to do in that situation.
Okay. So what are your thoughts about hypnosis?
Before I came, you mean?
Yeah,
before I saw you? I hadn't even considered doing it, to be honest. Before I saw you at all, it didn't occur to me that something like that would help with what was going on. I didn't know much about it, and I think I didn't really trust it. I was probably a bit anxious about doing something. I probably was anxious about using it as a technique to help myself. I didn't like the idea of what I would consider maybe someone else having sort of access to my mind, which is what I assumed hypnosis was. I think that made me a bit uncomfortable.
Okay. So, so how would you describe the experience then with me? Reflecting on that.
So, right. So reflecting on that and the experience altogether, the experience was wonderful. For one, I was completely changed in what I thought about hypnosis and what you were doing. I actually could say I actually really enjoyed the session with you. I completely changed the way I considered that kind of help. And I was so glad that I had done it when it was over. So you said describe the experience. So the conversational style that you use is really comfortable. It's really comfortable and comforting. It's kind of like talking to a really good friend. And it really allowed me to kind of seek the healing and understanding that I wanted around the situation at my own pace. So I think that was a bit of what was different from things I'd tried before, is that it wasn't something that I presented what was going on and someone told me what to do. It was more that I had a chance to work it through for myself. And I think for me, that's why the other things didn't work, is I didn't really choose them or choose my healing. It was handed to me, but I didn't work it through myself. But with this method, it's just so calm and comforting, and we just kind of went along this path, and it's I don't know, there's a great power in feeling that you're heard, both by someone else, but also by yourself. I felt like I could hear myself. And for me, I think that's what made the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So the session itself, it's funny, I don't remember it in detail anymore, other than I know that we kind of talked back and forth quite a bit. And you just have a very gentle, thoughtful way of kind of slowly making me aware of something that afterwards I felt like I kind of already knew, but I just hadn't seen it. As if it was always behind me and I couldn't look at it, and you just kind of gently turned me around and shined the flashlight on it. Kind of what it felt like. And then in the awareness of it, we had the opportunity to turn everything around for me. And you were able to lead me to an insight that then helped me during the session turn the whole thing around, turn the whole picture of the claustrophobia around. And we joked about it a little bit, and the whole session was just a delightful experience of what felt like just a nice conversation with someone, and yet there was a lot of insight in it, and a lot of awareness coming out of it.
Okay, that sounds good. Sounds like a good experience.
Yes.
So how do you feel now after the session in regards to the claustrophobia?
When the session kind of just ended, right after that, my feeling was this actually quite amazing feeling of relief. I felt relieved, as if, the feeling was as if I had been carrying something really heavy for a long time. I mean, for like my life, carrying something really heavy. And someone had just kind of said, here, let me take that for you. And I just felt really light and I don't know how else to describe it other than I felt calm and, you know, happy. We'd had it was a nice conversation, but I felt this huge sense of relief. And that lasted for a little while. And then, you know, the trip still hadn't happened. So as I got closer to the trip, I started to think, am I gonna feel claustrophobic on the trip?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't feeling claustrophobic about thinking about it anymore. That kind of vanished. But I did start to worry about, oh my gosh, you know, maybe when I get on the trip, it really will happen. I really will have the claustrophobic attacks. And those thoughts didn't arouse any anxiety in me, but I was wondering a lot what was going to happen. And by the time the trip came, I was like, oh man, you know, I'm going to be in bad shape. What was amazing to me was all the circumstances which would have caused the claustrophobia were there. Everything, nothing of that had changed. All the circumstances which would bring it on were there. The people who would bring it on were there. The room that would bring it on, the airplane, all of it. And it was all there. And I experienced it all. And I didn't feel anything. And it's as if all those things just didn't have anything to hook onto anymore. So I remember a few times during the trip kind of noticing, oh, wow, I didn't get claustrophobic. Huh. And then I wouldn't think about it for a while, and I wouldn't think about it. And then towards the end of the trip, I was like, wait a minute. It didn't happen at all. I felt fine. It's like, this is a great trip. So I think that's what, the session was really wonderful because of the conversational quality and the healing quality of it, and the ability to listen to myself and have someone listen to me and get insights. The effect of that was a surprise. And that was even better, because just this ability to just have an experience that normally would have triggered me, or whatever you want to call it, just have no effect on me, was fantastic.
Great. That sounds really good. That sounds amazing. Yeah. And what was your, how was your trip with your family once you got there?
Fun. It was good. I mean, there was the normal family situations and issues. But even that was lighter. It actually was a good trip. You know, when you come back, you're like, that was a good trip. I had a good time with my family. I think we laughed a lot. We talked a lot. We were really close. And overall, it was a really excellent experience.
Great. That's great.
Surprise.
What would you say to people who are kind of putting off fixing a problem like you've had? What would you say to them about putting their problem off and trying to fix it with something like this?
You know, I understand putting a problem off, because I've done that for years. Went through, you know, I can do it myself, and I'll read a book about it, and on and on. And if I could talk to someone who was having a problem, I would say, go to you immediately. I'd say, just drop everything and go. And that's for two reasons. One, I think you're really good. You're really thoughtful, you're really gentle, you know what you're doing, and you're really easy. You're just easy to talk to and to work through things. That's one aspect of it. So it's you personally. The other is this method, because I really believe, and funny, I believed it before, but this really validated for me, that healing happens between people. You don't heal yourself. You heal in connection with other people. And that to me is part of what the strength of this method and the gift of this method is it's an engagement with another person in a setting that really allows that healing to happen. So if I could talk to anyone who's interested in doing this, I would say, do it. Do it, you will be so glad. Your life will be so much better. You will feel relieved. And this issue that seems huge and insurmountable and like this all the time will seem like nothing. And you'll wish you'd done this sooner. Because it will just turn this issue into like a pinpoint. And you think, huh, really? I was really all wrapped up around that for all those years? So that's what I would say to people if I could.
All right. And just out of curiosity, like what's the most important thing about achieving success in that session that we did for you?
You know, part of it was learning to trust the healing process, learning to trust talking to someone else and working through healing. That was really important for me to take something which I kind of knew, but have it validated in such a way that I could say, yeah, this is how people heal. Part of the success was turning a problem that was huge into nothing. That was very significant, because when that happens, it's like you free up a whole lot of mental real estate. And, you know, I could focus on having fun with my family and all these other things because it just wasn't there. That was very important to me. And it was important to me because it was a step in my life healing process, that because it was successful, it kind of rejuvenates my whole feeling around the fact that we can get better. We can move forward. It's possible. It's not only is it possible, it's what we're here to do. It's what we're here on this planet to do, to transform ourselves, to become healthy, to make the planet healthy. And so when I could have an actual experience of that in such a short and succinct way, I think it was huge in my confidence that that's what we can do.
Great. So the overall, sounds like you had a really excellent experience. Anything else you want to share?
Well, if other people are listening, I would just reiterate, do this. Do it for yourself. Do it for your family. Do it for your friendships. Do it for the world. Because especially with the situation we're in right now, with everything that's going on, with the pandemic, with the climate crisis, we need people who are living happy lives. We need people who are feeling good and inspired and hopeful. And you know, you don't have to be out there doing anything in particular to alleviate the climate crisis or tear of the pandemic problem. Just being a happier person is a huge contribution to everyone. So I would say, if you have access to something like this, if you have access to someone like Matt, take it. Because not only do you need it, but all of us need it.
All right. Well, thank you very much for doing this interview with me. And it's probably pretty late there. You're probably gonna go to bed soon, right?
Yeah, thank you, Matt. And thank you for your help.
Okay.
I know that I'm eternally grateful.
Okay. You're welcome. I'll talk to you later, okay? All right, bye-bye. Good night.
Okay.